I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember, bacon makes everything better.
Our next guest led UNC Asheville to one of the best seasons in program history last year with a school record 27 victories, the Big South regular season and tournament championships, and the school's 5th ever trip to the NCAA Tournament. Now Coach Mike Morrell, who's only 41 years old but is already in his 6th season at Asheville, has the Bulldogs back in the hunt for another Big South title and a return trip to the Big Dance. His team has been battling High Point for first place all season and will revisit that university once more for this year's Big South Tournament, which will be played March 6th through the 10th at High Point's home arena, the Cabane Center. The Bulldogs will conclude their regular season schedule with a road trip to Radford this Saturday. Coach Mike Morrell, the 2023 Big South Coach of the Year. Welcome back to the David Glenn Show. How are you?
I'm good, David. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate the introduction, although I'm not sure I really deserve that.
Well, there's more, Coach. There's more where that came from. Before we get to this year's team, which is the focus of our conversation, and we're very excited about the Bulldogs, I'm dying to ask you one question about your unusual personal athletic background.
Okay.
You were a 3-year starter as a basketball player, but you were also a 2-time all-conference golfer and a league champion at Milligan College in Tennessee. Coach, half the basketball coaches I know dream of being great golfers. And I've even played with Roy Williams and some really good golfers, but not many pull off being great at golf while also being really good at college basketball. How did you do it?
Well, I had a really smart college basketball coach named Tony Wallingford. I went to Milligan College at the time. It's now Milligan University. You'll love this, David, because you probably, like I'm a product of small college basketball. You talked about your respect for Coach Smart, small college guy. So you got to have 2 jobs when you're in small college. You're not just going to be the head basketball coach. I was at King College. And so I'll give you another tidbit. I was actually a head golf coach. That was my first job at King College in 2005. Anyway, Coach Wallingford was the head golf coach and the head basketball coach. I might be getting him in trouble here, but I was just good enough of a golfer to play on the golf team. And so he put me on golf scholarship my last 2 years.
Cool.
And so it freed up more money, kind of like the salary cap, for him to go out and get some basketball players that could really help him on the basketball side.
Now, I swear I read you were all league in golf, man.
I was. I had.
Okay. So you can't say you were the last guy.
Well, what it took was to be all league, you had to finish like in the top, whatever it was, in the conference tournament. That was it. That's what deemed you all league. And it was just one of those weekends. I had a good weekend. And I think I don't remember what I shot, but, it was relative to the competition. And so I am not a great golfer. It is my favorite hobby without a doubt, and it's not even close. My greatest friends here in Asheville are the people that I get to play golf with. And so I've been fortunate. My first job was working on a golf course in Johnson City, Tennessee. So it is definitely a part of my DNA and my background. And I tell people all the time, I love basketball. I do love golf as well. I would rather watch golf any day of the week compared to basketball.
So quick follow-up, just out of curiosity, 20 years later, roughly, what would your handicap be? And are there other head college basketball coaches that can play like at your level?
I'm not sure. Actually, the coach that I have had the most conversations with this is Tubby Smith. Coach and I, he's an avid golfer. I've never gotten a chance to play with him. I'm a fanboy around Coach Smith anyway. He was one of my favorites growing up. So at conference meetings or whatever, it's what we would talk about. So I've not really played with a lot of college coaches in golf,
Yeah.
so I really don't know. I would imagine I'm probably up there. But my competitive juices in golf are not what they are in basketball. I will say that.
Okay. I've played with a bunch of guys, and I'm impressed. Like Roy Williams, for an older guy, can play. Frank Beamer, the football coach at Virginia Tech for a long time, like just a machine, not long, but insanely consistent. So I was just curious about that aspect of your background. All right.
I know
now
what my handicap is now. I'm not going to say it.
You're not going to say it?
No, I'm not going to say it, but
is it single digits?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty darn good. All things are relative, Coach. I'm a guy who shoots 90, okay? And I'm not embarrassed by that. That's not horrible golf.
If I shoot 90, I'm pissed, David. I'm not gonna lie.
I would imagine so, yes. I've never sniffed a single-digit handicap, so that's elite golf, at least in my eyes. All right, on to this amazing story. I want you to take our statewide audience back to the beginning of your UNC Asheville chapter.
Yep.
Because that first year, I remember you guys won 4 games and lost 27. Right. Now, you're a guy who was with Shaka Smart at VCU in Texas with a lot of success, a lot of NCAA tournament trips. How did you handle all that losing as a first-time head coach? And how did you and your staff turn an ugly start into what now is this 2-year run of insane success?
I didn't handle it very well, honestly, David. I mean, I've told people this numerous times. You don't leave the University of Texas working for Coach Smart and, go get your first head coaching job under the premise of winning 4 games. Now, what was, I do think, unique to my situation is, usually when you have to completely and utterly rebuild a program, something bad's happened, something crazy. That wasn't the case here. I mean, I followed Eddie Bedenbaugh, whom is a legend in this state, and Nick McDevitt, who is also did an unbelievable job here, a guy from North Carolina. So I was just following success. It just happened to be a little bit of a perfect storm right before the transfer portal is what it is now. And we don't have a grad school, David, so we couldn't bring in like graduate transfers to try to flip this thing really quickly.
Yeah.
So we took freshmen. We didn't have a choice. And the recipe for winning at Division I basketball is not a bunch of freshmen. I think we had 8. We started 4. And I think at the time, Kim Palm said we were the youngest, maybe the youngest roster in the last 9 years of Division I basketball. So we just chipped away at it, man. We got better each and every year. The biggest thing we did in recruiting, we obviously got better, but we retained the players that were here that we needed to stay here, the Tajion Jones, LJ Thorpe's, Coty Jude's, and then it turned into the Drew Pembers of the world. So, man, I was really blessed because we just had some really good people here, and my staff's been terrific. So, you lose, it's kind of a great story, as you've mentioned, lose 27 in your first year, and then we broke the school record for wins last year by 3 and won 27. And I don't know if we're going to get to 27 this year, but we've got another really good chance to compete for a championship.
Mike Krzyzewski was our guest here not too long ago. And I wonder if you've heard this story. If not, or either way, I'd just like your reaction to it. When he was a very young coach at Duke, prior to those 5 NCAA titles, they lost by 40 points to Virginia in an ACC tournament game before he kind of started recruiting, and a little bit like your story, just got the ball rolling.
Sure.
They were at dinner that night. Somebody at Coach K's dinner table raised a glass and says, "Here's to forgetting the nightmare that happened earlier today." Coach K interrupts and says, "Here's to never forgetting the nightmare that happened earlier today." I was fascinated by that psychology, man. Yeah. He wanted to use it as fuel. Yeah. Can you identify with that, given what you lived through in that first year at UNC Asheville?
Wholeheartedly, 100%. I have, obviously not comparing my way in any shape or form to Coach K. I have my own story of that. We lost by 46 at Presbyterian to end my first year. And, we made T-shirts that off season of that score, and put it on the back. I think it was it was like 49 to 106. And Dustin Kearns, who's a long friend of mine, we grew up in the same area. Dustin up at App State. He was the coach at the time. And they just blew our doors off. We never heard the gun go off in that game. But I remember telling those guys, we only had one senior on that team in that locker room at PC, like, this failure, because that was a failure, but not a failure that you don't grow from. And so in the locker room after the game, just really remember telling those guys, like, we will have a better story, from this. We didn't raise a glass or anything in there, but we did remember. And fast forward, David, to last year, the only two people in the program that were here, staff included, were myself and Tajion Jones on that team. And, Tajion scored like 17 straight in the Big South Championship game to come back and win, to send us to the NCAA tournament. He left here the all-time leading scorer. It was just a heck of a story. And it was because of failure. It was because of that year. And so absolutely, man, it resonates with me 100%. I'm thankful for it now. I mean, like, these are all, I keep these on my desk. I don't know if you can see these, but these are like all journals from that year.
Oh, where,
wow. It's just remembrance of, like, and also be appreciative, like what, the success that we had won 17 straight Big South games here at Kimmel Arena till Gardner Webb beat us on Saturday. And while we want to win, we need to be appreciative, because we're not entitled to winning. Nobody's entitled to winning. Winning's hard. And so, be grateful for it.
Whether you are moving locally, nationally, or even internationally, and whether you're a residential or commercial customer, please consider our friends at XL Moving and Storage, an award-winning Allied Van Lines agent with offices in Greensboro and Raleigh. Thanks to their 25 years of experience helping North Carolinians all across the state with their moving and storage needs, XL has become the trusted hometown North Carolina moving services company. Our good friends Jim Dorsett and Jody Hatley, along with their hardworking staff, offer customized, tailored relocation and storage solutions to the people of North Carolina and beyond. Visit them online today at xlms.com. That's EXCELMS.com. Tony Bennett you guys are all leaders in your own ways, but Tony Bennett, another recent guest, talks about how becoming that first number 1 seed to lose to a 16, he has a great quote that I'll probably butcher, but it's something along the lines of, if you can utilize disappointment to get you to a great place you might not otherwise have been able to go, well, then you've used it the right way, right?
Yeah, I actually used that with our team, that exact quote. I showed that to our team, I think, going into last year, and it was at the celebration, for that national championship. I think he actually held up a ticket, and he talked about, if you can use adversity, it'll take you to a place that you couldn't have got there any other way. You would not have gotten there without that particular adversity. And so, I know the exact quote you're talking about. Around here, I'm not smart enough to come up with those, so I have to steal other people's. And so we're a lot of stealing around this place.
We both mentioned Shaka Smart, and you experienced a lot of success with him at VCU in Texas. He's having great success at Marquette right now as we speak. What is your quick summary for what you took away from your years with Shaka, either as a person or as someone who envisioned running your own program someday?
Yeah, I mean, I get that question a lot, a little less now that I'm in my 6th year, and I don't. It's been longer since I was with him. I think the greatest gift that Coach Smart has, and this is basketball and personally, this is for coaches and players. He has the most unique ability I've ever seen from a coach or a person, irregardless, in a leadership place, to get people to believe in themselves more than they even could on their own.
Yeah,
me included. He has this innate ability to be able just to kind of like take confidence and put it in you and say, hey, now you go be you. And it's a talent that I wish I had more of. But that's the single greatest, thing that when I was a coach, and I even appreciate it more now that I'm in this chair. I tell him all the time, he usually agrees with me as well. Like, Coach, I'm sorry I wasn't better for you when I was an assistant. If I would have had this experience, I would have been so much better. He just kind of laughs, and he never really disagrees.
I'll tell you what, man, I've been at this for 37 years, and this is not an exaggeration. He is one of my 5 favorite guys that I have encountered in 37 years. I just love him, and I appreciate you going down that road with me.
He's one of my 5 favorite too. But
you have an even closer front row seat than I've had. I just enjoy him as a media member, kind of at arm's length, but he's a special guy. All right, let's fast forward to these past 2 years. I know you're all about staying where your feet are and winning, your next game, but I think fans wonder, how would you summarize the impact on UNC Asheville when you're in the big dance and you win that regular season and conference title and you're on that biggest stage? I don't know if you have numbers, but university applications tend to go up. God knows recruits might perceive you differently. Kimmel Arena might have a different vibe. I don't know how long that list is, but how do you help members of the general public understand that impact of March Madness?
Yeah, I think here we have to, take advantage of that. I thought we did a pretty good job of that in the offseason. I think it's shown in our attendance numbers here inside Kimmel Arena. We had over 3,000 here this past Saturday. And, that was the first game we had lost here in Kimmel in over 2 years. All those things with applications and notoriety and recruiting, it all helped that. Now you have to take advantage of it because you're only hot for so long. We've been fortunate to be able to have another good year, and who knows where it will go from here. But I think in this day and age where you only have that momentum for so long, and you're not entitled to winning. And winning is harder than it's ever been because the playing field is as level as it has ever been. You've got to take advantage of it. And, David, to me, it all goes back to the players. Like the last 2 years, I've had Drew Pember here. He's one of the best players in America, and he's had an impact where, you could argue he's one of the, probably 2 or 3 best players that's ever played in the Big South. I don't have the experience in the Big South to say that with certainty, but he's definitely there. So all those things combined have, here's a good example. You'll appreciate this. You know how important this is to programs like it is ours. Our camp has doubled from where it was. Our basketball camps in the summer, which are funding for us at this level, it doubled this past summer. And we're already higher now in terms of numbers than we were at this point last year. So, and that's life for us, here in the Big South at UNC Asheville. We need those things to survive at the level that we're trying to. So all those things have really came into play. And, I would love to say it's because we're good guys. I'd love to say it's because we're good people, but it's because we've won.
Michael Berard, Managing Director Investments with the Founders Group at Stifel, works with a select group of high net worth individuals and institutions to develop and implement investment plans tailored to their specific objectives and risk tolerances. If you are interested in highly personalized, well-researched guidance and outstanding personal service, you can contact Michael at 984-364-2002. That's 984-364-2002. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE. Well, you said something earlier, Coach, that I want to revisit because I sometimes summarize that there has been more change in college sports in the last 3 years than in the first 3 decades that I covered it combined. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your inability to turn the program around because your hands were tied, right? You're signing all these high school guys. And you still do some of that, obviously. But when I look at your starting lineup today, you mentioned Drew Pember, formerly of Tennessee. You have a Murray State transfer, a Hofstra transfer, a VCU transfer, a Citadel transfer. Clearly, your handling of the transfer portal has been one of the fundamental integral elements of your turnaround.
Sure.
My question is it less complicated to evaluate most players because you've seen them against a college caliber level of competition versus I know some high school players play with and against really high caliber, but others, they're kind of the big fish in the small pond. Is it easier for you to evaluate? And I don't know, maybe other things are more complicated with the transfer portal when you're seeing 100 names in there.
Yeah. That is a great question. And you should they should let you lead a panel on this, because questions like that, I'm telling you, I'll answer that two ways. Yes, from a basketball perspective, in my opinion, it is way easier to evaluate because you know the level of competition.
Yeah.
You go to an AAU event in Las Vegas at an 8 a.m. game and you evaluate, it's not the same. Here's the challenge that I find, David, is evaluating the character, evaluating the things around them. And you know, obviously everybody wants high character. Everybody, that's what you win with is character. And long story short, the transfer portal has made these recruitments and put them in a microwave because they're only lasting a few weeks. So the amount of time that you have to evaluate those outside entities, right? Sometimes it's just a leap of faith.
Yeah.
You know, the talent's easy. I mean, come on, I can turn the computer on, tell you in 30 minutes whether the guy can play or not. But it's all the things that you got to deal with this time of year. You know, how's a kid going to react if he's playing 14 minutes and not 21, or scoring 8 instead of 3, or whatever it is? Though, to me, that's the greatest challenge with the portal. Maybe some coaches, you know, it's not as big of a deal for them, but here it is. We're at a unique place in a unique part of the country where, you know, we just can't take anyone in terms of, you know, school and things of that nature. So that part is what I find to be the biggest challenge. And like you said, we've not batted 1,000 with that, but you know, all 5 of my guys are transfers in terms of our starting lineup. So,
and for those who don't know the background, you know, in the before times, if Coach Morrell was recruiting somebody with, you know, Shaka or whoever else, you might have had 2 or 3 years to meet the parents, ask the principal questions, ask the janitor questions, hope the high school coach is telling you the truth about the guy. And as Coach said, man, that's just microwaved into a matter of days and weeks with the transfer.
Well, you know, I'll give you 2 examples of 2 guys I know that you know extremely well. Like Drew Pember didn't have a great go at Tennessee. He was coming here from being coached by Rick Barnes. Like,
this is my next question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, like, I can assure you, he ain't going to learn as much here under me as he's going to learn under Rick Barnes. Like, I got Nick McMullen came here from playing for Matt McMahon at Murray State. You know, I've known Matt McMahon for almost 20 years now. Like, where could I envision getting a better, you know, a kid who knows how to play or knows what winning looks like, is what we like to say. Josh Banks came from, you know, whom is my big brother in this profession, and Mike Rhodes. Like, you know, all of our terminology is the same because I learned it from Mike, you know. So I think, you know, that's what we've kind of erred on, is like, where are they coming from? Because it allows us to have a little bit more information. So, but it's not easy. It's definitely not easy.
That's very interesting. Steve Forbes of Wake Forest makes your same point, that he felt better about taking Hunter Salas and Efton Reed because he knew they had Mark Few at Gonzaga prior to that. My follow-up about Drew Pember, and this fascinates me. All right, Coach, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but if I were watching your guard, Fletcher Abee, you know, at the Citadel, he's not only a good player there, he's a starter for 2 years, right? Even I'm smart enough to know that he could help you at UNC Asheville, all right?
Sure.
Drew Pember played 3 minutes a game as a sophomore at Tennessee. How in the world does your crystal ball? For those who don't know, Drew last year was the first player in the history of the Big South to go from preseason player of the year to the player of the year and the defensive player of the year and the tournament MVP. That had never happened until Drew last year.
Yep.
So how do you see maybe you have a crystal ball, or maybe even Drew has surprised you after 3 minutes per game as a sophomore at Tennessee. Share that story, because it's one of the great ones in UNC Asheville history.
Yeah, I do have a crystal ball. That thing lies to me, so I threw it away. I threw it away a long time ago. I really mean this, David. I think coaches get way too much credit for that stuff. You know, I've had very little to do with Drew's success. Goes back to character. He's got some of the highest character that I have ever coached. He's the best player I've ever coached. And what I mean by that is he deflects all that praise. It all goes, he would rather Fletcher Abee get that than him. Part of that's he don't really like it. And part of that is it's just who he is because of the way he was raised. So did I think he was going to come here? No way. No, I didn't think he was going to do some of the things that he has done. And I'll be completely frank with you. The biggest reason he came here, David, is he didn't love his experience at Tennessee, right? He wasn't playing.
Right.
Trent Stephanie was his best friend and high school teammate.
Oh,
who played here. Drew was looking for a place to go. He wanted to have fun. He would admit this to you. He didn't love basketball when he got here. I think he fell in love with basketball again while he was here. He had just been through the COVID, situation. That was his last year at Tennessee. And so if Trent Stephanie were not here, this story would have never occurred. I would love to tell people that I recruited my butt off to get him here, and we did the work to get Drew. Drew never came to Asheville until he showed up here to move in.
Wow.
So, Drew's here in large part because of Trent. He's also here because he really values connection and relationship. And, hey, stuff is really not that complicated. We don't have a lot of guys in the Big South who are 6'11", whether he was playing 3 minutes a game or not.
Yeah.
And so, I will tell you, the first practice that he was here, I walked off the practice floor and I was like, oh, man, this guy's good. And then I asked him at the end of his first summer, David, you'll love this. I said, what are your expectations here, Drew? He said, Coach, 15, 16 minutes, I just want to help us win. And I'm thinking, I can handle that. You'll get that. No problem.
I love those human stories, man. We had Hunter Salas of Wake Forest on the show recently, and he told, we analyze basketball and X's and O's, but there's so many human elements. And he said Steve Forbes helped him fall in love with basketball again. And here he is. He's going to be a first-team All-ACC player. All right, I can talk to you all day. I'm going to get you out of here with a couple of quick questions. I'm curious your thoughts about playing on another team's home court for a conference tournament. Now, this is not a new concept. It just turns out that High Point's in first place, and High Point gets to host this year. I'm old enough to know that UNC Asheville, before your time there, did win one at Kimmel Arena.
Yep.
But when y'all won it all last year, it was a neutral court, Bojangles in Charlotte. I guess my question is, do the business aspects – I've seen Coastal win on their home court. I think Winthrop win on their home court. Yep. And then sometimes it's neutral. But my bottom line question is, do the business aspects of doing it this way outweigh the competitive impact where a whole lot of Big South champions in the last decade have won on their home court?
Well, I'm going to try not to get myself in trouble.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I'm really curious.
Because my AD she loves basketball. She will watch this, so I'm going to try not to get myself in trouble.
All right.
No, I don't care about the business side as a coach, right? You don't. I understand why it's at High Point. They got a great arena over there. They'll put on a great tournament. It's a little bit easier for me to digest because the plan at some point when we couldn't go back to Bojangles, David, was the regular season champ. And so they would have earned it anyway. Okay. Now it went through a bid process and all that stuff, as everybody knows. And I got no problem with it, man. 94 feet, 10-foot basket. We got to go out here and you got to beat the other team. It's hard to win 3 games in 3 days, whether you're playing the game on the moon. So if we're in the championship game, we'd be grateful to be there. No matter where it's at. So we would love for it to have been here at Kimmel, but it's not. But I would prefer I would prefer it to be at a neutral site. And I think I won't say all, but I would say a majority of our coaches do in the Big South as well. One of the reasons for that, David, is here when it's at a neutral site, it's more of a tournament atmosphere. It's more of a tournament feel. And, when you advance, whether it's in your conference tournament, we advanced in the CBI a couple years ago. It is unlike any experience you can have in college basketball to advance in March. It's not like advancing in the NTE in November. To advance in March is unlike anything, man. It's just, it's really hard to explain. And so, like I tell our guys, our experience of being there can really help us, but we got to get there first, and that's going to be a challenge.
See, that's a very polished, professional, veteran head coach's answer, which is exactly what we expect.
Veteran maybe, polished. I don't know.
All right, we're going to get you out of here with our lightning round. These could be one-word answers, one-sentence answers, just as we continue to get to know you a little bit better. We brag in North Carolina, Coach, that we're one of the only states in the country that has great beach houses and great lake houses and great mountain houses. How would you put those in order, your preference?
Beach, lake, mountain.
Besides basketball, you might have answered this already. Besides basketball, what sports do you follow most closely?
Golf by a million.
Favorite golf course you've already played?
Sage Valley down in South Carolina. Played it one time. Unbelievable.
Golf course you have not yet played, but you would love to?
Augusta.
Yeah, no doubt. Favorite trip outside the United States?
Italy.
Just went there myself this summer. Name a few of your favorite bands or musicians.
Eric Church, Kenny Chesney, Tupac.
You don't have to pick all these, but any one would be fine. A favorite actor or actress or author or artist. Any of those come to mind?
I have an immense crush on Jennifer Aniston. And, I'm a big Friends fan. But I'll just go with that.
Join the club. And finally, our main sponsor here at the David Glenn Show, Coach, is the North Carolina Pork Council. So we ask everybody, you've been here in North Carolina long enough, you probably know the difference between Eastern-style barbecue or Lexington-style barbecue, but also you could pick bacon or pork shoulder or anything else. What is your favorite pork product?
Crispy bacon. It's not even close. I love bacon, and I know all the different barbecues because I came from Texas. So, but bacon.
Do you go more vinegar based, or are you more the tomato based or something else?
Vinegar. I like the salt, man.
Me too.
This time of year, I'm just living from meal to meal anyway. So just throw it in front of me.
Well, man, I've been rooting for you since before I knew you because of my Shaka connection. So I'm really honored that you carved out a nice chunk of time here. I hope I didn't keep you too long. But we wish you well the rest of the way. I hope to be calling you again to chat during the NCAA tournament if it works out that way.
And me as well, David. I will answer that call with an abundance of joy.
Thank you, Coach. I had a lot of fun, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Mike Morrell of UNC Asheville. They are one of the favorites heading to the Big South tournament next week. Of course, they will conclude this season on Saturday with a trip to Radford. Thanks to Coach Morrell for dropping by. Thanks to you across North Carolina and beyond for being with us today on the David Glenn Show, now heard exclusively here on the North Carolina Sports Network.